In today's video, what I wanted to do is talk about a theory idea that I had where I believe that Kylo lied to Rey about her parents in The Last Jedi, and I also believe that he doesn't even know who they are or where they are, as he so believed he did. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you if you're a returning subscriber, and if you're new to this channel and you love Star Wars, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on this video and other videos you watch, and be sure to hit that notification bell to get a notification whenever a new video goes live. In The Last Jedi, Kylo told Rey that her parents were no ones, that they abandoned her, that they were buried in paupers' graves in the Jakku desert. And here's the thinking about that, I disagree with that, and I believe that Kylo is lying. And the main reason I believe that Kylo is lying is because if we go back to The Force Awakens, you have Rey's vision when she touches the lightsaber, and we see her flashbacks, and we see the journey of the lightsaber. And what the interesting part about that vision is, in connection to The Last Jedi and that line of dialogue that Kylo gave, is that we see a ship drop Rey off, and that is presumably her parents, right? So we see her parents drop her off in this ship, and we see her left with Unkar Plutt. And so Rey was left on Jakku, which we know, and we knew that because that's where we met her in The Force Awakens. However, her parents left. It's not like they were walking away and just Rey was watching them as silhouettes walk away into the Jakku desert. And if that were the case, then it would be more plausible and believable that Kylo was telling Rey the truth when he said that they were buried in paupers' graves and that they were just, young traders and scavengers. And so that doesn't seem to be plausible. And so Rey would have to have been not from Jakku, right? If she's being dropped off there from a ship, presumably they took the ship there with her in it, obviously, because they can't just leave her there. Either that or they took the ship to her. But with some guides for The Rise of Skywalker, we see a little timeline for Rey, and I'll throw a picture up here for you so that you can see what I'm referencing. But at the first point is titled Abandoned, and it reads, "A tiny Rey watches helplessly as a starship pulls away, marooning her on the ultimate unfamiliar world of Jakku." And see, the key word here is unfamiliar. Sorry, I read that wrong. Unfamiliar. The unfamiliar world of Jakku, which implies to her that she hasn't been there before. Otherwise, it would have said the familiar world or her homeland of Jakku, but it doesn't. It says marooning her, leaving her, stranding her on the unfamiliar world of Jakku, i.e., she doesn't know it, she hasn't been there, she's not used to the surroundings. And she watches helplessly as the starship pulls away, meaning she has no choice in it, which would also imply that Kylo can't be telling the truth when he says that her parents were buried in a pauper's grave in the Jakku desert because they were scavengers, because they left Jakku. And if Rey was waiting for them to come back, she would have no reason to wait if they were buried in a pauper's grave there, because she would have frickin' known about it because she was stuck there. She's been marooned there. So I say all of that to say that Kylo can't be telling the truth to Rey in The Last Jedi, because if that was true and that they were really buried in Jakku and that they were just in a pauper's grave, an unmarked grave in the Jakku desert, you would think Rey would have known that her parents had died, considering we see in The Force Awakens all of those lines on the wall and the chalk marks. We see that she's clearly been waiting there. It's not like she, how she learned to fly all of those starships in the scavenger yard and she learned how to navigate and become a pilot. If that was the case, she could have left, but she didn't. And she could have went to go find them. But that's not what happened, because she waited there, because we see all of those check marks on the wall. And so we know Rey didn't leave Jakku, and so when she was marooned there and left there by her parents, we know she stayed there. And if her parents were to have come back, Rey would have known about it, considering she's a scavenger. She's got to go into town every day to get her rations, right? So she couldn't not know that her parents were there. It doesn't make any sense that her parents would have been there, especially because Rey's under the impression that they would have come back, meaning that if somebody else had come to Jakku that she didn't know about, she would have came there. And if someone had come there, it would have been a pretty big deal, because we know that Jakku is a junkyard, scrapyard. Han and Finn in The Force Awakens both call it a scrapyard, a junkyard. It's not a desirable place to be. So if her parents were really there, they would have had to have come back after dropping Rey off to scavenge her there and then die in a pauper's grave, which makes absolutely no sense if the whole point of her dropping them off there and then leaving was to get away from that and to go search for a better life, presumably is what they would have done. Because the idea of scavenging on Jakku, on a desert planet, for a quarter portion a day doesn't sound exactly desirable, especially when you have the capability in a ship to leave. So clearly Unkar Plutt must have been in a negotiation with Rey's parents in order for her to be marooned there and for her parents to get a ship with the ability to leave. And the last thing I'm going to touch on is if they were buried in an unmarked pauper's grave, who buried them? And who would care? Because as you see, there's just a bunch of wreckage there anyway, and everyone's scavenging for their quarter portion a day, for their 1.5 portions a day. So they are likely more inclined to worry about themselves and not bury anybody because it's hot. You have a limited amount of time to find food. You have a limited amount of time to scavenger during the day. So I don't know why, unless, I mean, clearly Jakku's not exactly the most mannered place. It's not like they have some type of cotillion going around there where everyone learns how to be manners. No, you're scavengering. You're fending for yourself. You're searching for your own portions. So the idea that so the logic would have to follow that they would leave Rey, that they would come back without telling her, without her finding out, that they decided that they didn't like the whole galaxy and the whole universe to go and look at, so they decided to come back to Jakku without telling Rey, which would be their only point for coming back, to decide that they wanted to give up whatever life they found otherwise to scavenger and then to die, and then for some stranger to have buried them in a pauper's grave who's also got to worry about getting his own amount of portions so that he can stay alive and continue to scavenger for the next day. So that whole logic makes zero sense, and that is why Kylo has to be lying to Rey about who her parents were and why they're not buried on Jakku. But let me know what you guys think with a comment down below. That wraps things up for me here in this video. Thank you guys for watching. God bless, and may the Force be with you.